Yo guys, welcome back to Any Recapping. Quick info, the poll for this week is out right now guys. Please go vote so you can choose the next story. Sorry I had to skip last week, it was super hectic for me and the team. But starting from this week, the poll will be back every single week. Anyway, today's video is straight up epic. Another day, another banger story. RMC literally meets a god and gets an overpowered ability. But what makes it special is how insanely smart he is. He exploits every loophole and turns Earth into an alien-level civilization by the end. It's so good that I binge-watched it myself. You're gonna love this one. Okay, I know it's exciting, so let's just start right in. After school that day, I ran into a literal god, and he looked at me and asked the most ridiculous question of my life.
Would you choose 750 points in the college entrance exam or 75 million in cash?
Was that even a real question? One single second of hesitation would already be completely disrespectful to $75 million. With $75 million in my pocket, who the hell would still take a school test? These days, there are college students everywhere. With that kind of money, I could just hire 10,000 university graduates to work for me. But I chose the 750 points. Why? Because the day before the exam, I saw a crazy post online. The original poster asked the exact same thing, 75 million in cash or a perfect score on the college entrance exam. I thought it was just another stupid internet question, so I immediately started typing and blasted him in the comments. You spend all day daydreaming, wake up man, I typed. But to my total surprise, the poster replied right away. He told me to pick one and try it. That made me laugh out loud. There was absolutely no reason to think about it. Unless I could guarantee a perfect score, then being the top scorer in the whole country would be pretty good too. Then the poster replied instantly again. He told me that if I chose the exam, I would definitely get a perfect score. Even better, I would also gain a brand new magical problem-solving skill. But there was a catch. I couldn't tell anyone, or the ability would disappear forever. He made it sound so mysterious. I didn't really believe it, so I casually replied, if that is true, then I choose the perfect score. If I actually become the top scorer, even my ancestors would probably jump out of their graves to celebrate for me. Then, I threw my phone aside and went to sleep. The next day, I sat in the exam hall. When the invigilator handed out the Chinese test paper, I took one glance at it and my entire body shivered. The answers to these questions started pouring out of my brain like crazy. More accurately, the exact questions I originally had absolutely no idea how to solve now had perfect answers appearing inside my head from just one look. Then, holding my breath, I looked at my pen. My handwriting, which used to look like a dog had crawled across the page, was now flowing beautifully. It looked like a legendary master calligrapher had written it. My pupils shrank. This was huge. This had to give me an extra writing score. So, I answered the questions at top speed. The second I left the exam hall, I took out a blank paper and a pen. I quickly wrote down the words, "I am really handsome," just to test my handwriting. I stared at the paper. My handwriting was still damn good. Just with this one writing skill alone, I could already become a famous calligrapher with a serious reputation. That discovery made me totally ecstatic. A single Chinese exam had already given me such a ridiculous skill. So what the hell was 75 million worth anymore? In the afternoon math exam, I was still performing like a god. Every single problem instantly had hundreds of different solutions popping into my mind. And the crazy part? Many of those solutions were totally beyond my own understanding. They were completely unlike anything Earth had ever seen before. After the math exam finally ended, the hall was filled with the screams of despair from the other students.
Oh my god!
One student cried out,
I just checked the last problem. That was a higher mathematics question. Is the question setting team this insane this year?
In the rest of the exams, I just kept charging forward. My mind kept unlocking a huge number of skills that could literally change the world. When the last test finished, I was the very first person to rush out of the exam hall. The students sitting next to me were completely stunned.
This guy just handed in a blank paper, right?
I heard them whisper. I ignored all those rumors. I just left the exam hall with only a cool, mysterious back view. 2 days later, inside a massive grading center, thousands of excellent teachers sat in front of glowing computers grading papers at full speed. The leader of the Southwest grading team, a strict man named Charles, kept walking around the room.
Listen to me.
Charles emphasized loudly.
There must not be a single misjudgment. One wrong grade could affect a child's entire life.
Not long after he finished speaking, one of the graders suddenly stood up and yelled in shock. Charles immediately barked at him.
What are you doing? Keep quiet. Don't you know the rules?
The grader in charge, Sherry, looked completely shocked.
Team leader Charles, come look at this. I think this should be a perfect score essay.
The whole room went dead silent. Everyone was stunned. The grading had only just started, and there was already a perfect essay? Charles quickly walked over and studied the screen himself. Just one glance changed his angry expression completely.
This writing is incredible.
Charles gasped.
Even if the content were a pile of crap, I'd still give him 20 points.
Then he looked closely at the actual content. Instantly, he got goosebumps all over his body. This genius student had used barely 1,000 words to write an absolute masterpiece. After school that day, the news blew up. Before other top universities could even react, they all wanted to rush over and personally hand me their admission letters. At the exact same time, back at my house, my parents were completely losing their minds. My dad stared at his phone, then looked at my mom in pure shock. He shouted,
"Honey, did you see the news? A student named Luke got a perfect score on the college entrance exam. He has the exact same name as our son."
Hearing that, I slowly walked out of my bedroom. I looked at them calmly. "Is there a possibility that Luke is actually me?" I asked. Hearing that, both of my parents just laughed. They said doomsday is coming if I'm the perfect scorer. I just rolled my eyes and pulled out my phone. Then I showed them my official score. The glowing 750 points almost blinded them on the spot. My dad froze for a full 2 seconds. His jaw hit the floor. Then, he suddenly started sprinting toward the front door.
"I'm going to check if our family ancestors exploded out of the graveyard,"
he yelled. I quickly stopped both of them, and then I told them something even more shocking. I told them I wasn't planning to attend university yet. Instead, I wanted to openly provoke the National Exam Committee. I wanted to force them to increase the difficulty of the test and publicly announce that I would continue taking the college entrance exam again next year. My parents thought I was crazy, but they didn't know the truth. For ordinary people, the exam existed just to get accepted into university. But for me, the exam had become a way to evolve myself. Every time I participated in the college entrance exam, my brain could absorb the brilliant scientific knowledge hidden behind the questions themselves. With this, I could become a top mathematician. I could become a world-class physicist. I could maybe even surpass every single genius alive. Right now, some shameless foreign countries had been desperately suppressing our country's technological growth with endless blockades and restrictions. But if those blocked scientific fields could somehow appear inside future exam papers, wouldn't every single impossible problem solve itself instantly in my head? Of course, I could never tell anyone the truth behind my new ability. The god from the internet made sure of that. So, I looked at my parents and promised them that I would definitely attend university after the second exam. Finally, after staring at my perfect score one more time, they agreed to my totally insane plan. The next day, I woke up to absolute chaos. Countless reporters had flooded our front yard, wanting to investigate every single thing about me. Right beside them were representatives from the nation's top universities. Before they even stepped foot inside the house, they were already yelling and arguing fiercely with each other, trying to steal me away first. When my parents and I finally opened the door to leave, we froze. We were instantly stunned by the massive crowd gathered outside. The university leaders rushed forward all at once. They completely surrounded my parents and started throwing out offers so ridiculous they almost sounded fake.
"We will give him completely free tuition and guaranteed housing,"
one shouted.
"We will give him a monthly living allowance of 30,000 cash,"
another yelled. Not wanting to fall behind, one powerful leader pushed to the front. "Our school will personally provide Luke with his own independent laboratory, plus 300,000 in yearly research funding. And get this, even if he doesn't attend our university, that money will still remain reserved for him." The moment those words dropped, the representatives from Greenwood University and Stanton University completely panicked.
You're actually playing dirty now?
One of them shouted angrily at the leader.
We were still discussing basic scholarships, and you're already offering permanent research funding whether he enrolls or not?
I watched them fight for a second. Then, I said something that completely stunned every single person there. "Teachers," I said clearly, I've already decided to repeat the exam for another year. The entire crowd instantly went dead silent. Everyone's brains were buzzing from pure confusion. What kind of crazy situation was this? The reporters immediately smelled a massive headline. They swarmed toward me like hungry sharks, shoving microphones into my face.
Student Luke,
They yelled.
why would a perfect score national champion give up going to university?
The moment I heard that question, my eyes lit up. That was exactly the line I had been waiting for. I looked straight into the camera lenses and spoke very calmly. Because this year's exam questions were too easy. I didn't even use half my ability before getting full marks. That interview aired on national television, and the entire country exploded. The high school students preparing for next year's exam were furious. They instantly cursed my name onto the top internet trending charts. "Is this guy insane?" one popular comment read. "Can he act like a normal human being for once?" At the same time, the top experts on the exam committee were furious beyond belief.
This kid is way too arrogant.
An expert snapped.
Does he seriously think our exam committee is only capable of that low level?
A few days after the interview ended, different provincial organizations rewarded me for my perfect score. They handed me over $1.5 million in pure prize money. Once that news spread online, public opinion exploded all over again. Countless internet users believed they had finally figured out my secret plan. With scores like his, they typed, couldn't he just keep taking the exam every single year and casually earn millions? But I didn't care about any of the online criticism. I was way too busy getting ready for my big date with the school beauty, Wendy. Back in high school, we had already secretly liked each other for a long time. But because she was so stressed about the college entrance exam, she had never agreed to date me. Now that I had become the national top scorer, our relationship naturally became totally official. Just like that, an entire year passed by in the blink of an eye. Soon, the second college entrance exam finally arrived. The very moment I stepped up to the testing center, countless reporters rushed over again. Flashbulbs went off everywhere.
Student Luke,
A reporter shouted.
how many points do you expect to score this time?
I simply smiled and shook my head lightly. I'll probably get another perfect score easily. The reporters were instantly overjoyed. Some of them had probably already typed out their headlines in their heads. Perfect score genius declares he will achieve full marks again in second attempt. Another reporter hurriedly pushed to the front.
Last year, you openly provoked the exam committee. Many experts were extremely angry because of it. This year's exam has become far harder, causing many students to complain bitterly. Was there perhaps some misunderstanding?
I calmly looked at him and replied, "No misunderstanding. I'm not targeting the exam committee specifically." Then I slowly scanned the giant crowd of reporters and students. I'm saying everyone here is trash. The reporters were completely dumbfounded. My arrogance was really beyond all limits. Then, one of them noticed the beautiful girl standing right beside me the entire time.
Student Luke,
He asked, pointing his camera.
who is the beautiful girl next to you?
I didn't hide anything. I directly reached out, held Wendy's soft hand, and openly said, "She's my girlfriend." Just as expected, the reporters instantly realized that celebrity romance gossip was still huge news. Cameras immediately started flashing nonstop. Just one photo of us like this could easily increase their website clicks by a huge amount. Soon, the second college entrance exam officially began. And once again, my crazy theory was perfectly proven right. The moment I looked at the new super hard questions, the correct answers automatically appeared inside my mind. I didn't need to worry about making a single mistake. This time, I even deliberately changed my writing style just to have fun. Yet, the calligraphy that flowed from my pen was still so incredible, it looked worthy of founding an entirely new school of art. The two test proctors pacing the room kept glancing toward me repeatedly. They saw how smoothly my pen moved across the paper without stopping for even a second. They couldn't help becoming curious. Eventually, one of the proctors stood up and began walking softly through the quiet examination hall. But when she finally stepped behind me and saw my exam paper, she froze on the spot. She was completely mesmerized. A 19-year-old young man actually possessed writing skills at this amazing level. Was this what a true genius looked like? And then, she saw my essay topic. She finally understood the cruel trick the question-setting team had played this year. They wanted the candidates to write a continuation of the famous classic novel, Dream of the Red Chamber, and it had to be no fewer than 6 6,000 characters long. The proctor was a massive fan of Dream of the Red Chamber, so she knew exactly how insanely difficult that task was. Countless famous writers had tried to write a sequel before, and none of them even came close to the original masterpiece. But when she saw that, I didn't hesitate for a single breath before starting to write. Her expression kept changing again and again. By the time I filled the giant paper, she was so hooked by my story, she felt like a curious cat scratching at her own heart. When the other stressed-out candidates saw me stand up and hand in my paper early once again, they rolled their eyes hard.
Why is it this flashy show-off again?
They whispered angrily.
Will he die if he doesn't show off?
A few days later, the exam ended, and the grading team officially started their work. But when it came to my test, the teachers hit a massive wall. They all felt they didn't even have the ability to score my essay. They had no choice. They had to report it to the highest review panel for expert consultation. When Jane, a legendary literary giant, saw my paper, her eyes widened in pure anger.
The middle part is missing.
Jane yelled.
It's clearly not finished. How can it just stop here?
She looked so mad she could eat someone alive. As an experienced superfan of Dream of the Red Chamber, she could already see the genius possibilities of my story. But the exam had only given me a small amount of space to write. I physically ran out of paper. The head of the grading team, Charles, hurried over to calm her down. He carefully asked her what score would be appropriate for this essay. Jane let out a long breath. She collapsed weakly into the sofa and said one single sentence.
Full marks.
Soon, the grading ended and the official exam results came out. I was totally unsurprised to see that I had become the national top scorer once again. But the entire internet completely lost its mind. Haters everywhere started screaming that there must be some black curtain, a secret, corrupt deal. They demanded a strict investigation. How could anyone possibly get full marks on an essay that is just a continuation of Dream of the Red Chamber? They typed furiously. They demanded my essay be made public. Under all that massive pressure, the Ministry of Education directly released it online. The moment my essay appeared, it was reposted all over every single major platform. When people finally read it, they were totally stunned. Was this absolute masterpiece really written by a 19-year-old kid? Countless hardcore Dream of the Red Chamber fans flooded my comments. They begged me to release a sequel because they had been waiting for a perfect ending to the classic novel for far too long. The public opinion on the internet reversed in a flash. The loyal fans and the angry haters started tearing each other apart in the comments. Then, top national calligraphy experts came forward. They publicly stated that my handwriting was so good, it had already become its very own school of art. They even said that if I had lived in ancient times, I would have been named a great historical master. But the thing that pushed this whole crazy incident to its absolute peak, the official Dream of the Red Chamber Association came to my house in person. Jane, the literary giant, led the group. She looked at me and begged me to continue serializing the novel. She told me the royalties could be absolutely anything I wanted. Because right now, aside from me, no one in the world could truly finish the work. Seeing those respected old people looking so exhausted over this, I reluctantly agreed. I took out a paper and a pen right there. Right in front of everyone's eyes, I sat down and flawlessly wrote from chapter 81 all the way to the very end of the novel. When I finished, Jane grabbed the papers. She held them to her chest like some priceless magical treasure. She sat in the middle of my sofa, almost in tears, begging me.
Please publish it.
Jane pleaded.
Please. Whatever conditions you want, the Red Chamber Association will try its best to meet them.
But I only smiled and shook my head. I write for people to read, I said, so just follow the normal publishing process. But I do want you to help me with one small favor. Jane was in a great mood. She immediately told me to ask for anything. As long as she could do it, she would never refuse. But she definitely didn't expect my request. I looked her in the eyes and said, I want you to tell the question-setting team that next year's exam should be made as hard as humanly possible. Jane stared at me. Her mouth opened, wanting to say something, but she forced herself to stop. She really wanted to ask what kind of impossible level I was aiming for. Why did I have to keep fighting the national exam like this? She complained in her heart, but she didn't dare say it out loud. She could only nod and say she would try. In the end, both sides agreed that my continuation of Dream of the Red Chamber would be bought out for a massive $50 million in cash. At the exact same time, my new video asking for a harder college entrance exam spread online. The whole internet started discussing it wildly. The relevant government departments even responded quickly, publicly criticizing me for being way too arrogant and ignorant. But they didn't get the last laugh. 3 days later, my Dream of the Red Chamber continuation was released in stores. It completely sold out on the very first day. It was like a massive punch in the face to all my critics, instantly shutting the haters up for good. Meanwhile, inside a giant skyscraper, one of the country's biggest financial giants sat in his office. His name was Arthur. He was holding a copy of my book, crying in absolute silence.
This Luke kid is so young.
Arthur wiped a tear.
And he really writes so well.
He immediately slammed his hand on his desk and asked his secretary to look me up. Not long after, the secretary hurried back and sent him an interview video of me. But when Arthur watched the video, he saw a very familiar girl standing next to me, his daughter, Wendy. Arthur's eyelids started twitching. His mouth fell wide open. The secretary backed away slowly, thinking the billionaire chairman was about to explode in anger. Instead, Arthur just stared at the screen.
This kid has already gotten this far, and he still hasn't come to visit his father-in-law?
He instantly told his secretary to arrange a dinner meeting with his daughter. Soon after, Wendy sat down to have dinner with her father in an upscale luxury hotel. Arthur's face was completely dark.
Luke is your boyfriend, right?
Arthur asked strictly. Wendy panicked a little. She quickly started explaining how excellent I was, how hard I worked, and how smart I was. But Arthur raised a hand to stop her.
Hard work?
Arthur said sharply.
You really should work hard. Otherwise, how can you ever deserve my good son-in-law? From now on, you have to call him your husband.
Huh?
Wendy was completely stunned.
What is this?
Arthur poured her a cup of hot water and rolled his eyes at her.
It's not as complicated as you think. That's right. I approve of this son-in-law. But there's one condition.
Wendy instantly leaned in. She asked what the condition was. Arthur sighed heavily.
Since he already continued Dream of the Red Chamber, can he give me the copy he wrote himself?
Wendy immediately felt something was way off. She knew her father's sneaky character far too well.
I naturally have my reasons.
Arthur stiffened his neck and said it as plainly as possible.
Just tell me yes or no.
Wendy shook her head. She said she couldn't decide that. She needed to ask me first.
Fine. Ask him.
Arthur agreed right away. He stood up, turned to leave, and quickly added,
And make sure you speak nicely to him. Don't make my good son-in-law angry.
Wendy sat there in silence. She instantly felt like she definitely wasn't his biological daughter anymore. When she got back home and told me about the crazy dinner, I just shook my head and laughed out loud. So, Uncle really found out after all, I smiled. As for the Dream of the Red Chamber original manuscript, I already gave it to you. Since it's already yours, who you give it to or how you arrange it is entirely your business. I have no objection. I pulled Wendy into my arms and kissed her. There's really no need to do this, I whispered. We're equal, aren't we?
Yes, we are equal.
She said softly.
But I still have to ask for your permission.
I let out a breath and smiled as we kissed back. But I'm really glad you agreed. That means there's no obstacle between us anymore. A few days later, Wendy and I finally went to meet her father together. At first, the meeting went totally fine. We talked, we laughed. But then, my future father-in-law suddenly coughed loudly, leaned across the table, and asked a bomb of a question.
By the way, when are you two getting your marriage certificate?
Wendy almost sprayed the hot tea she had just drunk all over Arthur's face.
Dad,
She shouted, completely red.
I'm still busy.
Only then did I fully realize that my billionaire father-in-law had been completely conquered by me without me even trying. But I also knew he was moving way too fast. Uncle, I said gently. We're only 19.
Right. You're right.
Arthur slapped his own forehead hard.
You're not old enough for the certificate. Then how about we hold the wedding banquet first? Let's invite your parents and mine to meet, choose an auspicious day, and settle it immediately.
Wendy panicked.
Dad, how can you be in such a giant hurry to marry me off? Even though I'm absolutely willing, you can't just say it like that.
Arthur waved his hand dismissively.
Be patient. I know it's not ideal, but such a perfect son-in-law must be locked down quickly. What if something changes and someone else snatches him away?
For a moment, I didn't even know how to answer. So I could only try my absolute best to calm this super passionate father-in-law down. Eventually, I found a polite excuse to drag a very embarrassed Wendy away. Not long after all that drama, the college entrance exam scores were formally announced again. And after I once more scored a perfect, flawless mark, every single major university threw out olive branches, begging me to join them. But I rejected them. Every single one of them. I even went on camera and boldly declared that the exam questions were simply too easy. I loudly hoped the experts in the question-setting team would make it much harder next time. Why? Because I desperately wanted to use my secret question-solving method to help the country break through the giant foreign technology blockades. But I couldn't say that hero stuff out loud, or my special ability would disappear forever. Because I kept insulting the exam, people online thought I was unbearably arrogant. Some angry haters even came straight to my doorstep to demand answers from me. But my perspective on the world had already opened up. I directly took my $50 million and ignored the noisy world. I was completely relaxed. Until one extremely heavy, tragic piece of news broke across every screen in the country. Flight YH-739 from the Republic had gone missing mid-air. The 261 passengers aboard were completely unaccounted for. I stared at the news report. My mind started racing. If the question-setting team gave me a chance to draw some new skills on the next exam, finding the exact wreckage of that missing plane probably wouldn't be a big deal at all. I could save them. And right at that exact moment, the National Education Department issued several massive, game-changing rules for that year's upcoming exam. First, the exam questions had to keep up with the times and follow current events. Second, the answer sheet restriction was totally canceled. Candidates could now add as many extra blank answer sheets as they wanted. That meant two things. There would never again be an essay cut off halfway, and the system was perfectly set up for me to solve the greatest mystery in the world. Very soon, the Republic's official 5013 college entrance exam finally began. As I sat in my seat, I could feel the sharp, angry gazes of the students on both sides of me. I had single-handedly forced the committee to raise the difficulty of the national exam. But the angrier they were, the happier I became. Who knew? Decades later, some of these same kids might even become members of the question-setting team, while I would probably still be taking this exact test just to unlock more superpowers. As more candidates filed into the room, the strict invigilators arrived too. After the test papers were handed out, both the students and the teachers looked at me with a crazy mixture of envy, irritation, and total disbelief. But I ignored all of them. I just picked up my pen and started solving. The Chinese language section at the front was way too easy. However, once I flipped to the final essay topic, I was super disappointed. The prompt was, how to optimize postpartum care for sows. Sure, writing an essay about caring for mother pigs wasn't exactly easy for normal people, but for my brain, the difficulty was only so-so. Then, in the afternoon, I eagerly took the math paper. I was disappointed all over again. It was only slightly harder than last year. Fortunately, the next day I finally found a truly difficult question on the physics paper. My eyes locked onto the last page. Assume missing flight YH-739 has crashed. Please use the physics knowledge you have learned to analyze the exact crash site. This question is worth 1 extra point. The moment everyone else in the exam hall saw that question, their scalps tingled with pure fear. But I was the only one who broke into a giant grin. The time to laugh at the whole country had finally come. Instantly, I discovered a massive flood of new information bursting into my mind. There was so much knowledge, it was almost like an ocean. The data even included the complete manufacturing technology for a futuristic nuclear submarine that could easily dive to a maximum depth of 20,000 meters. I was so excited, I almost stood up right on the spot. Just one single test question, and it gave me this much advanced technology. This was a huge win. Then, a flash of inspiration hit me. Could this submarine be the exact thing I needed to find the plane wreckage? In the real world, there still wasn't even a single clue about where the plane went. After the exam ended, all the stressed out candidates were discussing where they guessed the plane had crashed, but there was no agreement and no standard answer. Half a month later, the official scores were finally released. Sure enough, I got 749 points. I had clearly written the exact correct answer for the physics question, but the graders still refused to give me that 1 extra point for full marks. Fine, if they wouldn't give it to me, then I would just have to prove my answer was right myself. On the internet, everyone mocked me. The haters laughed, saying the great genius had finally run out of talent. Because of the massive drama, a famous news reporter named Betty came straight to my house to do a live stream interview. She wanted the public to hear my thoughts. Betty was extremely professional and had a very sweet voice. Less than half a minute after her camera started rolling, the live audience count had already reached over 1 million people. Her first question was simple.
How did you perform in the exam this year?
I answered calmly. I performed steadily. But the live chat on the screen instantly flooded with insults. "You bragged so hard last year," one comment read. "Why didn't you get full marks this time, huh?" I looked at the rolling comments. I looked straight into the camera and shot back, "Who told you I didn't get full marks?" Betty froze. The whole audience was completely stunned.
Who told you?
Betty asked, totally confused.
What do you mean, who told you? The official score is already out. The country's highest score is 749. Could there still be more?
I nodded. The grading team misjudged it. I gave the correct answer, but they didn't even verify it. If I personally locate the crash site, that proves my answer was right. My words instantly blew up the entire internet. Far away, at a fancy celebration banquet, one of the members of the official question-setting team happened to be watching my live stream. He exploded in anger right on the spot.
Damn it.
The official screamed.
He really dares to say that? Is Luke a walking underwear thief in his past life? How can he be this good at acting arrogant?
Back in my living room, I looked straight into the camera lens and spoke with total confidence. The missing plane is at the deepest part of the Mariana Trench. Betty froze again. Then, she quickly reacted.
The Mariana Trench. That is the deepest trench in the entire world. And you said you would personally prove it. Does that mean you can somehow dive to the ocean floor at 20,000 meters?
After the interview ended, the whole internet laughed at me and called me completely crazy. But what they didn't know was my secret weapon. Sure, I couldn't build a massive submarine all by myself, but my billionaire father-in-law, Arthur, was not someone to mess with. The very next day, Wendy and I flew directly to Shen City, where many of the world's largest shipbuilding companies were located. When Arthur heard that I wanted to start a tech company and do deep-sea research, he didn't even blink. He directly gave me an entire massive building to use as my personal laboratory. So, standing in front of all my newly hired employees, I proudly announced that our company's very first project was to build a brand new type of submersible and bring the missing plane up from the deadly trench. Once that news spread, the internet exploded again. Some people attacked me, screaming that I was just using the tragic missing plane incident for cheap attention. But soon, clever netizens dug into my records. They quickly discovered that my brand new company, Future Technology, already held hundreds of top secret patents. Even the most advanced foreign tech companies were totally shocked by the impossible technologies I had registered. Finally, on the 3rd month after Future Technology was established, the submersible was fully assembled and ready for underwater testing. Since it could dive deep beneath the crushing sea, like it was walking into an unguarded backyard, I named it Poseidon 1. When the powerful engine started, our descent speed quickly reached level 78. The test staff inside the control room grabbed their seats and screamed.
This is supposed to be diving?
One engineer yelled.
Why does it feel like we are driving a sports car on the highway? Do you think water resistance just doesn't exist?
Suddenly, the submersible sent back a flashing red warning. It had detected a hidden submarine lurking in our territorial waters. How dare undetected submarine cross my country without a permit? I immediately ordered the computer to scan that unknown submarine's data. At the exact same time, up on the surface, 3 Republic destroyers were carrying out a patrol mission. Suddenly, their alarms blared. They received a powerful signal from below and panicked.
Who is scanning us?
A sailor shouted.
We've been locked on! Where are they? Find them now!
But no matter how much advanced sonar or radar they used, the destroyers found absolutely nothing. Poseidon 1 was completely invisible to them. Then, the destroyer's communications officer suddenly reported that the mysterious deep-sea object was requesting direct contact. The fleet's leader, Captain Sarah, let out a heavy breath of relief.
This shouldn't be an enemy submarine,
she said.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be contacting us first.
So, over the radio, we calmly reported the unexpected discovery from our test run. We told Sarah there was a foreign submarine sneaking around in our waters. After we gave the destroyers the exact, precise coordinates, Captain Sarah's eyes went cold. She immediately ordered a full-speed pursuit. Deep underwater, inside the sneaking British submarine, Commander Frost was laughing with his crew.
The Republic's radar tech is way too backward.
Frost bragged.
Even if we move around casually, they will never notice us.
But then, 3 glowing red dots suddenly appeared on his radar screen. His cocky expression realized a huge, terrifying change.
We're surrounded?
Frost gasped.
How did these backward devices detect us?
They tried desperately to escape, but before they got far at all, they found themselves completely trapped in a massive Republic anti-submarine net. I didn't care about what happened to them after that. Our test lasted a full 3 days, and Poseidon 1 performed perfectly. Soon after, Future Technology officially announced that we would dive to the absolute bottom of the Mariana Trench to search for the missing plane wreckage. And even crazier, we announced it would be live streamed to the world the entire way down. The internet immediately erupted. After the official stream went live, massive numbers of viewers rushed in. In less than 10 minutes, the audience easily exceeded 5 million people. As the heavy metal hatch closed and the machine sank into the dark sea, Poseidon 1 descended at a terrifying speed. When the depth passed 8,000 meters, the lights flashed on. Everyone watching the screen finally saw what kind of nightmare creature was blocking our way. It was a giant, mutated shark! It was nearly 20 meters long, full of jagged fangs, and looked insanely terrifying. I ignored the panic flooding the live chat. I just smiled and calmly pressed a hidden red button on my dashboard. Boom! A blinding purple light burst out from the bottom of the submersible. The giant shark was instantly vaporized, turned into nothing but a pool of bloody foam that scattered through the dark sea. Halfway across the world, the top brass of the British Navy who were secretly watching the live stream were left completely stunned.
Their electromagnetic cannon tech is this powerful?
A British general shouted.
Send 3 aircraft carriers immediately. We must get the technology that Republic Submersible uses at all costs.
But it wasn't just Britain making moves. Our own Navy's big boss, Captain Sarah, also received urgent emergency orders. She was told to dispatch all available forces and rush to support us at full speed. They absolutely could not let Poseidon 1 fall into dirty British hands. But I was hundreds of miles underwater. I had absolutely no idea any of this dramatic military action was happening. I just kept heading toward the deepest point of the trench. Not long after, my monitor beeped. The headlights illuminated a massive chunk of metal resting in the dirt, the wreckage of an aircraft. The netizens in the chat cheered wildly. The missing plane really had crashed here. My answer on the physics test was 100% correct. But just as the whole internet was celebrating, an urgent internal message suddenly appeared on my screen. It warned me that the British Navy had already gathered a large number of warships and submarines right above the trench, and they were trying to steal Poseidon 1. Luckily, the message also said the Republic Navy was currently confronting them and would do absolutely everything possible to ensure my safety. The moment those words accidentally appeared on the public livestream, the millions of viewers changed their expressions. "What is this?" Someone typed. "Are they about to start a literal World War III over Luke?" Up on the surface, the tense fleets suddenly accelerated toward each other. Sarah was furious and shocked.
Absolutely do not fire first,
She ordered her men,
or the consequences will be severe.
She ordered everyone to block the enemy vessels with their own ships at any cost, except opening fire. Down inside Poseidon 1, I was burning with pure rage. One single thought grew in my mind. Give me 3 years, and the Republic Navy will completely dominate the seas. At the same time, I felt a deep, heavy grief. If our brave soldiers were really hit and killed because of me, then the blood of those losses would have to be paid back 10 times over. On the surface, the massive battle between both sides was on the absolute verge of breaking out. Interception weapons roared to life as they crazily shot down incoming warning missiles. But the gap in military strength was simply too large. Sarah's smaller fleet could not last even 3 minutes against the British carriers. Thousands of miles away, inside a top-secret naval command room, a powerful old general roared.
"Tell the Eastern Delivery System to prepare to launch,"
he commanded.
If they still do not cease fire after 10 seconds, we will retaliate at all costs.
At that exact moment, deafening alarm sirens suddenly blared across the entire foreign fleet. The British commanders looked at their screens in horror. They instantly shouted for a total ceasefire and full retreat.
Retreat!
They screamed.
We've been locked onto by the Eastern Delivery System!
Because of this insane world-shaking incident, the submersible I developed instantly attracted major global industry tycoons. They rushed to my office with $30 billion in pre-orders, begging for cooperation. Once that mountain of money arrived in my bank account, I just had to show off. So I proudly announced that every single employee of Future Technology would immediately get triple salaries. Also, weekends would officially be 2 full days off, and my golden rule, anyone who dared to work overtime, I would personally throw them out into the water. The pay was so crazy that even Aunt Chen, our building's janitor, realized she could now earn a massive $20,000 cash a month. She immediately called her daughter and told her to drop everything, come apply for a janitor job, and scrub toilets with her. Of course, some jealous experts quickly came out and wrote angry articles. They said that such high salaries were actually bad for young people's motivation. Seeing that stupid news, I publicly fired back. I said that Future Technology was not short of money in the slightest, and we welcomed any motivated talent to join us. That boss move caused a huge public reversal. People who had cursed my name just a few months ago started turning into massive fans. "Luke, you are my god!" They typed online. "The question-setting team needs to return Luke that 1 point right now." Meanwhile, the official question-setting team, who had long enjoyed total fame and respect, was pushed right back onto the center stage of public criticism. Team leader William, who had once confidently bragged that no one could ever get a perfect score, was furious. After I went 20,000 meters underwater just to prove him wrong, his face was slapped hard in public. He sat in his office, feeling a murderous fury. "I don't believe it," William thought darkly. "Next year, I'll give him an impossible math conjecture question. Let's see if Luke can still solve that." While he plotted his revenge, I was busy having a top-secret meeting with the highest naval commander, Walter. Walter looked at me with glowing eyes. He hoped Future Technology could cooperate deeply with the military to develop an entire aircraft carrier battle group that was way better than Britain's. He promised that as long as I agreed, any condition was fine. I could even hold a high-ranking military title in the Defense Department. After hearing the military's crazy proposal, I smiled on the outside, but I broke out in a freezing cold sweat on the inside. They really thought highly of me. They thought I was a god of engineering, but the giant problem was, I honestly didn't have the slightest clue how to build an aircraft carrier. While my thoughts were spinning, I looked straight at the general. "I have 2 conditions," I said. "General Walter, you know I take the college entrance exam every single year. Next year, when the exam comes, I need the military to step in a little. I need you to set a question about aircraft carriers on the test paper, and I'll answer it." Walter's face completely twisted.
"What kind of bizarre request is this?"
he asked, totally confused.
"Our military research institutes spend hundreds of billions every year. Are you saying my top scientists are not as good as a high school exam question?"
I smiled and admitted I had a bit of a gambling streak in me, but such a good opportunity would be totally wasted if I didn't grab it. Fortunately, in the end, Walter agreed to my crazy request. He promised they would indeed set a related question on next year's exam. I immediately pressed my advantage and proposed my second condition. If I could successfully solve the aircraft carrier problem, I wanted him to help me get a top-secret weapons and equipment research and production license. After a round of intense negotiation, the military representative finally left my building. Outside, Walter's assistant couldn't hold back his curiosity. He asked Walter why on earth he had agreed to my demands. Walter just smiled mysteriously.
"The exam system has been reformed, hasn't it? If the military sets a 1-point question under its own name, the Ministry of Education will definitely give us face and allow it. And if Luke really can help our Navy break out of its current crisis, it's gonna be super worth it."
Meanwhile, watching Walter's car leave, I silently prayed that next year's exam would be even harder. Something like, how should Earth counter a Thanos invasion? Wouldn't that be a direct leap to total galaxy domination? A few weeks later, the military found the national question-setting team leader, William. They explained their purpose, hoping the team could set a special 1-point extension question on the physics paper. When William saw the impossible question the military gave them, he cursed inwardly. Were these army people completely insane? If someone could actually answer this, it would definitely benefit all of humanity. But was this something they expected a high school student to solve? Still, the military made it clear the higher leadership had already approved it. This was a direct order, not a suggestion. William could only agree helplessly. Very soon, my 4th college entrance exam was about to begin, and this battle was going to make me a living god. When I reached the exam hall, the street was already packed with screaming reporters. The internet had even opened massive betting pools on whether I could get another perfect score. Once the exam officially started, the Chinese, math, and English tests were all totally ordinary. The masses online laughed, thinking there would be no monster-level drama this year. But then, I got the final comprehensive paper. I flipped to the very last biology question. It asked, how should cancer actually be treated? All around me, the other candidates' brains were buzzing with despair. Countless medical experts had worked for years and still had no answer. And now the test was asking high school students, who the hell were we to solve this? Luckily, it was only worth 1 point, so missing it wouldn't ruin their lives. But on my paper, I simply wrote 3 big words. I can cure it. Then I quickly attached a rough treatment direction. Since the question didn't specify the exact type of disease, I couldn't give a complete, detailed method. In the afternoon, the physics paper was handed out. Instantly, the candidates started cursing the invigilators out loud.
Come look at this!
Someone yelled.
What kind of question is this? They want us to write the research route for infinite future energy.
Right then, a huge electric shock ran through my brain. Suddenly, the complete data for controlled nuclear fusion technology appeared clearly in my head. This was insane. These 2 technologies meant the Republic's era of unlimited energy was about to begin. From then on, our enemy would no longer just be Britain, but we could even fight the 3-body aliens. I immediately raised my hand. I asked the invigilator to bring me more blank answer sheets.
How many do you want?
The teacher asked naturally. 200, I answered. My voice echoed through the dead silent classroom. Every single student looked at me in pure disbelief. They probably wondered if I'm gonna write the manufacturing process for nuclear bombs. I just smiled to myself. Now I'm really going to show off. And what the invigilator witnessed next was something he would never, ever forget for the rest of his life. I grabbed a pen in my left hand. I grabbed a pen in my right hand. I even placed a third pen in my mouth. Both my hands moved like beating drums, all 3 answer sheets working at the exact same time. My handwriting was so fast it looked like silkworms crawling across the paper. This time, I didn't hand in my test early. I kept writing furiously until the final bell rang. When I stood up, carried over 200 answer sheets, and submitted them, every candidate had the exact same thought in their heads. Is this guy even human? The 2 invigilators who collected the massive stack of papers were horrified. My physics answer sheets were completely filled with the exact research and development data for controlled nuclear fusion. Suddenly, the exam hall doors were kicked wide open. A group of fully armed soldiers rushed into the room. The leader was a polite, scholarly-looking soldier. He stepped forward and firmly announced that my answer sheets were now state-level confidential material. The higher-ups had already agreed that the military would take over immediately. Somewhere else, Commander Walter waved his hand. He ordered an entire Special Forces brigade to completely surround a top-secret conference building. After my answer sheets arrived inside, no one could leave without his direct permission. Anyone who tried to leak the information would be shot on the spot. Inside the building, the military researchers carefully studied my papers. Instantly, they went crazy, like they had swallowed some kind of stimulant.
Oh my God!
A scientist screamed.
This is controlled nuclear fusion technology. If it can be verified successfully, we can be 500 years ahead of Britain. But how could this kind of material be written on a high school exam answer sheet? Are exams really this wild now?
A few days later, I decided to officially create a brand new company focused on nuclear energy called Future Technology. Walter showed up at my office without warning after hearing the news. He brought me the promised military arms license and loudly announced that the military was investing in my nuclear energy project too. Under the cooperation of multiple giant organizations, a $1 trillion energy company suddenly rose up overnight. According to Walter's thinking, as long as controlled fusion was solved, our military could directly leap to building space aircraft carriers. Meanwhile, back in the military conference room, an official named Leonard started muttering, questioning whether my test answers were actually real. The researchers exploded in rage at him.
It's real!
A scientist yelled, grabbing his hair.
It's nuclear fusion! It's controlled nuclear fusion technology!
As professionals who had spent their whole lives in this field and still hadn't even fully mastered nuclear fission, how could they not go insane when they saw actual fusion?
Quick, verify it!
Another yelled.
Where is my pen? Where is my paper? Hurry up and get me supercomputer access! We don't have enough people here! Someone call old Wayne! Call old Lee! Get more people here immediately! We need every nuclear expert in the country! I'm not sleeping from now on!
Another old researcher shouted.
Old George, you're already over 70. Do you want to die? Let me do it. Someone bring my things over. From today, I'll eat and sleep right here in the lab.
Walter and the other military leaders were all stunned.
What?
Walter gasped.
On ordinary days, you're all so polite and proper, and now you're all acting like this? So, this is the real you? We've all turned into that crazy guy now?
The whole conference room instantly boiled over. Every answer sheet in their hands was treated like a priceless treasure. Except for the very first sheet. They didn't care about the first page because it was just a normal biology question. They casually tossed it aside on a desk. Once they confirmed that most of the 200 answer sheets contained real controlled fusion data, they completely lost it and pushed forward crazily to read them. Even George, the chief expert, couldn't squeeze into the crowd because of his old age and failing strength. After barely getting halfway into the circle, he was violently pushed back out. He got so angry, he almost cursed out loud.
You bastards.
George yelled.
You respect me every day, and now you're throwing me away like yesterday's trash. Move, let me in. I want to see it.
But everyone was far too crazy to listen to him. His white beard trembled wildly, yet he still couldn't do anything to get through the mob. Then, out of breath, George looked down. He saw the first answer sheet that nobody cared about. He casually picked it up. The first page didn't have much. The second page didn't either. And then he suddenly froze.
What the hell is this?
George whispered.
Treating cancer?
Hearing that, Walter also froze. He walked over.
Treating cancer? What does that mean?
George leaned over and handed him the sheet.
Look, they wrote it right here.
Walter stared at the paper and muttered,
So, the exam question itself was about cancer treatment?
George was completely shocked.
This was this year's exam question? The exam is really this wild now? No, it wasn't just wild. It was outrageously wild.
Walter looked at the answer sheet and frowned. He stared at my cancer treatment direction for a long time without speaking a word. Finally, he turned and told his underling to go, "Fetch Dr. Paul immediately." After the underling gone, Walter instantly looked at George and asked his opinion about this whole nuclear fusion technology thing.
To be honest, the concept and ideas make sense if you see it through a scientific eye. Everything even has its own scientific data. But there's just one single problem. Everything only worked here because the writer assumed there is a new material called Luke element.
Walter frowned.
What is Luke's element?
That's something I've never heard of. It's probably the owner element concept, or something that really exists on Earth. If that element is really here, we would get a new super element that is so durable and could even control nuclear.
Walter nodded. It was probably Luke's secret card. Not long after, Dr. Paul, the top national medical expert, came to the building to examine the answer sheet. After reading it extremely carefully, Dr. Paul's hands shook. He confirmed that Luke's cancer treatment method was the absolute most perfect medical theory in existence, with the highest possible success rate. Unfortunately, Dr. Paul sighed. The method was nearly impossible to implement in the current era. It required god-tier traditional medicine skills and specific herbal ingredients that had become extremely rare in modern times. An hour later, back in my future technology office, I sat down with Wendy and my assistant, Secretary James. Prepare the highest grade physics and chemistry labs, I ordered James, explicitly forbidding him from putting any of the plans on an internet-connected computer to avoid foreign spies. Second, help me contact some material suppliers. We need to import top-tier equipment fast, before the foreign monopolies catch on to what we're building. I looked at Wendy. Help me contact Uncle Arthur and Old Wayne. Tell them the price to join this project is $100 billion for just 10% equity. Secretary James gasped, totally shocked.
If the 10% equity is $100 billion, then the initial valuation is already over $1 trillion.
By the time he bowed and left my office, he was so excited and terrified that he had violently sweated straight through his expensive suit. Meanwhile, downtown in an exclusive luxury club, billionaire Old Wayne and my future father-in-law Arthur were enjoying a break after talking business. Suddenly, Arthur's phone rang. It was Wendy.
What?
Arthur yelled into the phone, jumping up from his leather chair.
$100 billion for 10%? Yes, absolutely.
Old Wayne violently stand up and pressed his ear right to the back of Arthur's phone to eavesdrop.
Do you want to invest or not?
Arthur asked him smugly after hanging up.
Only absolute idiots wouldn't invest.
Old Wayne yelled,
If a new project of Luke's needs $100 billion just for 10%, use your butt and think about it. It's definitely something huge. If I don't invest, my brain must have been kicked by a donkey.
Very soon, the two billionaires began aggressively liquidating their massive assets. They moved so fast they actually caused a shockwave in the national stock market, leaving other financial institutions cursing Arthur's name as they scrambled to stabilize the crash. At the same time, Secretary James rushed to the government department to apply for our licenses. But when the desk clerk read the paperwork, he froze, completely stiff.
Private nuclear energy development?
The clerk stammered, terrified.
I don't dare stamp it. I'd be executed for treason.
The panic went all the way up the chain of command until Chief Director Calvin was called down. Even Calvin was completely drenched in cold sweat. But when James casually mentioned that the first phase investment was a trillion Republic currency, Calvin realized this was way above his pay grade. The green light ultimately had to come from General Walter. Walter didn't waste a single second. He flew straight to the Capitol and summoned the top military and political leaders. When the civil officials saw the proposal, the meeting room instantly devolved into a chaotic, screaming war.
This is a waste of money.
One politician roared.
$200 billion in cash for a project that's likely to fail?
Bullshit.
A military official roared back.
National dignity only exists within the range of artillery fire.
Eventually, Walter couldn't stand it anymore. He violently slammed his fist onto the table, making spit spray everywhere.
Fine.
Walter roared furiously.
If you desk people are too scared, our Navy will pay the entire $200 billion ourselves. But when the $1 trillion dividends start coming in, none of you will get even a single cent. This matter is officially settled.
Walter stormed out of the room. His assistant, Rowan, hurried after him, worried about the terrible consequences if the project failed. But Walter just smiled confidently. He knew exactly what I was capable of. A few days later, Walter sat across from me in my future technology office.
It's done.
Walter smiled, sliding a thick folder across my desk.
I even brought the contract with me. It already has both military and government seals on it, so there's absolutely no problem.
The moment I heard that, I was instantly overjoyed. It's approved? That's amazing! But when he said absolutely no problem, I quietly pretended not to hear that part. Absolutely no problem right now didn't mean there would still be no problem in the future. Especially if one day Walter was no longer around. Who knew what kind of corrupt monsters and greedy demons might suddenly jump out? That was exactly why I absolutely had to keep some trump cards hidden secretly in my hands. Those trump cards weren't limited to just classified formulas and the synthesis method of the new Luke element. I also needed the ability to reverse a hopeless situation when cornered, or at the very least, enough power to protect myself and ensure the safety of the people I cared about. And for that, I already had plans in mind. Once controllable nuclear fusion technology was successfully completed, I could officially begin preparing my ultimate defense. There was still enough time left. Judging from Walter's current healthy physical condition, there shouldn't be any issues for at least quite a few years, as long as no accidents happened.
Let's sign the contract.
Walter urged impatiently, pulling out a pen. Honestly, he was even more anxious than I was, but it made perfect sense. Their navy had been suppressed by foreign powers for far too long. Although their new large-scale project had already reached the stage where it was about to be completed and launched into the water, it still wasn't enough. Without advanced aircraft carriers, there was no real voice on the world stage. And without nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, they would always remain a step behind the true superpowers like Britain or the US. But if controllable nuclear fusion-powered carriers could really be created, then who would still dare challenge them? Who would still dare provoke the Republic Navy in front of him?
We won't actively provoke others,
Walter said, with burning eyes.
But we absolutely must gain the strength to crush anyone who dares provoke us, no matter who they are.
I smiled slightly and shook my head. No rush, General. This is a four-party cooperation. The others should arrive soon. Walter immediately understood.
Your father-in-law? And who else?
Crown Group's Old Wayne, I replied casually. Walter nodded knowingly.
Old Wayne's a good man. He came from military roots, too. His wife's family also has a strong background in the government. I have no objections. Waiting for them before signing is fine.
Hearing that, I slightly raised my eyebrows. It looked like Old Wayne's identity and background were far from simple too, but thinking about it carefully, it made sense. If he didn't have that kind of hidden influence, then after the Poseidon 1 incident, I probably wouldn't have lived this peacefully. After all, the people interested in my technologies weren't just foreign forces. In many cases, the most troublesome and dangerous enemies were the greedy people inside the country itself. Yet until now, I hadn't encountered even one serious problem. Clearly, Old Wayne's deterrence ability was extremely powerful. As for my future father-in-law, well, he didn't really have any background, because Arthur himself was the background. He might be able to block some troubles, but definitely not many. Still, things were different now. With the powerful Navy officially joining and backing this cooperation, there probably wouldn't be many people foolish enough to cause trouble for me anymore. About 10 minutes later, Arthur and Old Wayne finally arrived at my office. Both of them came carrying obvious excitement and anticipation. Originally, Old Wayne still wanted to carefully ask what kind of secret project we were discussing, but the moment he walked in and saw General Walter sitting there, his face changed instantly in total shock. Then, after hearing that the Navy planned to independently invest $200 billion cash for a 20% stake, he became completely dumbfounded.
What are we even discussing anymore?
Old Wayne blurted out, laughing.
Who cares what the project is? Just sign the paper first and transfer the money afterward.
But the real shock came after the contract was fully signed, and I finally revealed the actual project to them. The moment I calmly told them that the project involved controllable nuclear fusion energy, Old Wayne's brain practically exploded right on the spot.
Controllable nuclear fusion?
He stammered, dropping his pen in pure disbelief.
Are you serious?
I slid the top secret procurement list across my desk, handing copies separately to Old Wayne and Arthur. Uncle Arthur, Uncle Wayne, I said, leaning forward. We're all family here, so I won't speak in circles. My company, Future Technology, has basically offended almost every massive foreign corporation on Earth already. If we use Future Energy's name to officially import these advanced materials, those foreign countries will definitely make things difficult for us in every possible way. It'll be too troublesome, and honestly, we don't have the time or patience to argue with them. I tapped the list. So I want you two billionaires to secretly purchase these materials under the names of Crown Group and Arthur Financial. Afterward, Future Energy will buy them back from you under the table at the original price. Then I pointed at the most important impossible item on the list. And this quantum collider? I said seriously. I want the most advanced model available. We need the physical equipment here, and the faster the delivery, the better. Most importantly, before the other side delivers it, absolutely no information can leak out. Foreign companies cannot know that Future Energy is the actual buyer. The two billionaires didn't even blink. They immediately nodded.
No problem. Small matter.
They answered together without hesitation.
As long as there's no formal government ban on these items yet, this won't affect our normal business for now.
Then Old Wayne sighed lightly and looked at me very seriously.
Honestly, kid,
Old Wayne said,
what you did before with the submarine really hit my heart in the best way possible. But at the exact same time, you also practically offended every foreign corporation and almost every other country on the planet. Once they start taking you seriously, future technology is going to face deadly obstacles at every single step.
I just smiled calmly. That day was always going to come sooner or later. I was mentally prepared for it long ago. But as long as we become strong enough, every problem will solve itself. I believe that very soon, the technologies they currently monopolize won't even be necessities to us anymore. Maybe in 3 to 5 years, they'll be the ones crying and begging to hand over their most advanced technologies to us. And we still might refuse them simply because we won't even care about them anymore.
Well said!
General Walter slammed the table excitedly.
I like that crazy spirit of yours, kid. Young people are supposed to be arrogant. That's exactly how it should be. We should make them unable to even dream of catching up to us.
But after the excitement settled slightly, Walter's expression gradually became dead serious again.
The contracts are signed, and the money will arrive soon.
Walter said, his voice dropping low.
But there's still one matter that must be arranged immediately. Otherwise, once the truth becomes public, it'll already be too late.
He stared directly into my eyes. I lightly rubbed my chin, still not fully understanding what he meant. Walter sighed softly and shook his head.
Your safety problem, Luke. Right now, your personal safety is the highest priority for the entire nation. Understand? Because once controllable nuclear fusion technology is truly developed, there's no way we'll be able to hide it forever. We might be able to lock down the technology itself, but it's impossible to suppress every piece of information.
He leaned in closer.
Once the news leaks out, you'll immediately become the target of the entire world. Every country and every evil force will want to get their hands on you. And if they can't obtain you, then they will destroy you.
Arthur picked up the conversation next, his face suddenly turning pale. Earlier, he had been too shocked by the technology itself to even think about this terrifying issue.
He's right,
Arthur said heavily. Old Wayne also nodded seriously. The darkness of reality is far more terrifying than you imagine, Luke. Even the crazy things written in spy novels are only the tip of the iceberg. It's not just hostile countries either. Neutral nations, resource-exporting countries, and massive oil-based forces will also panic, because the appearance of controllable nuclear fusion would instantly drag them from heaven straight down into hell. No, actually, there isn't a single country on Earth that wouldn't want controllable nuclear fusion technology. Old Wayne slowly made a slow, chilling, throat-cutting gesture with his hand.
The powerful nations definitely won't be willing to watch us rise. That means you'll become a massive thorn in everyone's eye. If they can kidnap you and make you work for them, that's their ideal outcome. But if they can't,
then there's only one option left.
Walter continued seriously.
Assassination. Your safety must be guaranteed, and it must be the highest level of protection possible. I'll arrange 2 full elite military security teams to protect you around the clock in rotating shifts. At the same time, there'll also be an entire perimeter defense sniper team stationed around your location as defensive support. Of course, they normally won't appear openly, and you probably won't even notice their existence.
I was honestly stunned. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated? And 24-hour close protection seems a little excessive. Old man, the 24-hour personal protection part really isn't necessary, right? I tried to protest awkwardly. That's not very convenient for my personal life with Wendy. But Walter calmly sipped his tea like everything was already under control.
I understand what you mean. Don't worry. Women hold up half the sky too. We have elite female soldiers.
I instantly felt speechless. No, you completely misunderstood what I meant. But from the stern look on his face, I could already tell there was absolutely no chance of refusing anymore. Then, Walter casually dropped another massive bombshell.
Also, starting today, you're officially listed under the Navy's highest expert group,
Walter said.
You'll receive corresponding general rank level treatment immediately. And once controllable nuclear fusion technology is successfully developed, the treatment you'll enjoy will be at the level of senior national leadership.
Before I even had time to react or refuse, Walter continued speaking non-stop.
And it's not just you. Your parents' safety also needs protection, including your future father-in-law.
Arthur immediately widened his eyes in fear.
Me too? That shouldn't be necessary, right? Sure, someone might target me, but I already have normal bodyguards. As long as I stay careful, it should be enough. Besides, once things become public, people will know we only have investment and dividend rights. We have zero actual authority over the technology itself, right?
Walter didn't loosen up in the slightest.
So what if that becomes public? Terrorists don't care. They can still kidnap you and torture you to threaten Luke.
Arthur instantly froze.
That actually does sound possible.
Exactly.
Walter replied seriously.
So, this matter absolutely cannot be taken lightly. Right now, there are two choices. 1. We arrange 2 elite security teams for you as well. Or 2.
He paused briefly before calmly continuing.
You all move directly into the top-secret military compound. Everything you need is there, and it would be much safer too.
My personal suggestion was that they move in, because it would be 1,000 times safer inside a military base.
I'm not going,
Arthur quickly said with a firm attitude.
General Walter, trouble you to arrange some people to protect me instead. After all, I still have more than 1,000 people under me at Arthur Financial to support. Moving into the military compound might mean I lack nothing, but that still isn't exactly practical for running my empire.
I nodded. That made sense too. I agreed. Maybe some protection is necessary for me. As for my parents, I'll ask them later, I said. I didn't make the decision for them because this kind of thing affected their future life directly, so they had to decide for themselves. I also didn't resist this crazy arrangement at all because safety had always been extremely important to me. If I already had the ability to protect myself, how could I not protect the innocent people around me? But for the current stage, I still had to follow the military's arrangements. What if some foreign country or evil force really couldn't hold back and decided to stir up trouble, choosing to take a desperate gamble and attack my family? I absolutely had to prepare in advance.
Good. Contact me after you decide,
Walter said.
As for the armed manpower, it'll be in place at your house within 2 days at the latest.
All right then. I'll head back first, I said, standing up. Take care, Elder Walter. Not long after Walter left, Old Wayne and Arthur also departed to start buying my secret materials. I then called my dad. The two elders were out playing mahjong at the time. Back when they were just ordinary working-class people, they had hardly enjoyed life at all. But now that their son had a net worth of over 100 billion, they no longer insisted on continuing to work. Instead, they gradually began to accept the life of wealthy people, slowly learning how to enjoy themselves. Playing mahjong, eating good food, and going on vacations had already become normal for them. Of course, the mahjong stakes were small, just $3 or $5 kind of games, because illegal gambling was absolutely off limits in our family. After I explained the terrifying assassination situation, my parents were a little worried. But after serious consideration, they still decided to move into the secure military compound. Inside the heavily armed compound, unless some foreign superpower truly went mad and was willing to start World War III just to target them, it would basically be impossible for anything to happen to my parents. With that settled, I finally felt at ease and started working on officially establishing future energy. On the other side of the city, Walter hurried back to Navy headquarters for a highest secret level meeting. When he walked in, he found that his nuclear experts were screaming and arguing again. The whole room was noisy and chaotic, and he had no idea what they were fighting about this time. He quickly slammed his hands on the table. He told them that the cooperation had succeeded, and that the missing, impossible piece of the puzzle, the Luke element, would soon have a solution. The moment the experts heard that, they immediately became incredibly excited.
The Luke element!
One scientist yelled.
Luke? That element is named after his own name, right? He really is a living god. The younger generation has completely surpassed the older one.
Who says otherwise?
Another expert cried.
Even though we still don't know exactly how the Luke element can actually be synthesized, if it can, then according to our current math theories, his controllable nuclear fusion technology is truly 100% feasible. It's really hard to imagine how a 21-year-old kid who never went to university could be this incredible. Could he have secretly evolved without taking the rest of us along?
The more they talked, the more absurd it got. Walter's mouth twitched, even though he also thought I was monstrously abnormal. But saying I secretly evolved without taking others along was just way too outrageous for a room full of scientists. After thinking for a moment, Walter raised his own question.
Experts, I have a question.
Walter asked.
If the Luke element is successfully synthesized, and it truly matches the crazy properties written in Luke's materials, then how long will it take for the controllable nuclear fusion technology to be completed? After success, wouldn't the energy problem of our new nuclear-powered aircraft carriers be completely solved forever?
The experts were instantly stunned. Many of them had twitching faces, some were already grimacing, and others simply rolled their eyes at the general.
Elder Walter, are you serious?
One of the head scientists said.
You're the superior military officer, but I still have to say this. Do you even understand what true nuclear fusion is?
The scientist threw his hands in the air.
Once it succeeds, the energy problem for aircraft carriers will obviously be solved. If it truly works, then let alone running at sea. Even if you made a carrier physically fly into the damn sky for 3 or 5 years, you still wouldn't need to worry about an energy shortage or recharging at all. Are you kidding me?
That's right.
Another expert added, laughing.
The moment controllable nuclear fusion is achieved, we'll basically never have to worry about energy again in the history of mankind.
They kept playfully complaining, saying that old Walter usually wasn't the kind of person who would ask such stupid questions. And especially since he was willing to throw $200 billion cash of military funding into this cooperation, there was no way he didn't understand the importance of fusion technology. After all, that $200 billion was meant to develop the Navy's carrier project, and yet Walter was acting like he had absolutely no clear concept of what nuclear fusion actually meant for the future of Earth. While the other scientists were laughing and speaking casually, General Walter was listening with intense excitement. In fact, the more they joked about it, the happier he became. Suddenly, a crazy inspiration struck him.
Wait.
Walter said, holding up a hand.
So you're saying that even if a massive aircraft carrier physically flew into the sky, we still wouldn't need to worry about energy shortage?
Of course.
The experts replied casually.
Isn't that obvious? General, do you think controllable nuclear fusion is a joke?
Walter suddenly leaned forward, his eyes burning.
Then, is it possible? Just a possibility, I mean. Could we abandon the previous aircraft carrier plan entirely?
What?
The experts were shocked.
Go straight to the next step,
Walter said, slamming a fist into his palm.
What I mean is, an aerospace mothership.
The entire room froze dead.
Aerospace mothership?
A scientist gasped.
Are you serious? How is that even one step ahead? This is clearly just leaping straight to the finish line of science fiction.
But the moment they said that, even the scientists themselves started getting wildly excited.
Wait, hold on. Don't say that.
One expert muttered, rubbing his chin.
I'm actually getting excited too. It really might be feasible.
The other agreed.
The biggest problem of a flying carrier is energy. Once the energy problem is solved, and since nuclear fusion is a clean, limitless energy source, even if the propulsion system was a little weak, it still wouldn't be a real problem.
No, there is still one problem.
Another expert countered.
The physical propulsion materials are the issue. Heat and friction would melt a normal ship in the sky.
But materials aren't the problem either.
A third scientist yelled, jumping out of his chair.
The new super material Luke created for the submarine was ridiculously powerful. I estimate that even if we used it for flight, with that material's insane strength, flying continuously for 3 to 5 months should not be a problem at all.
And the key is that the price isn't even that expensive.
The first scientist added, pacing the room.
If we really manage to build an aerospace mothership, then replacing the propulsion-related parts once every 3 to 5 months would not be unacceptable for the military budget, right?
As they talked about it, the entire room of experts caught on fire with inspiration.
Damn, it really does seem to have some feasibility. You have to admit, this really might work.
The experts became more and more excited. Even the lead specialist, originally responsible for the old ocean aircraft carrier design, had already grabbed a fresh stack of paper and started frantically redrawing the entire concept. Whether it worked or not, he didn't care anymore. Right now, everyone was idle anyway, and waiting for Luke's results was too painful. They might as well start designing the mothership first. What if it really worked? The very next day, the military's promised security detail arrived at my house. 2 elite 6-member close protection teams of highly trained female soldiers were officially assigned to secure Wendy and me around the clock. Though the intense 24-hour surveillance felt restrictive and slightly uncomfortable at first, I quickly adapted to my new reality and redirected all my focus towards setting up my secret laboratory. Then, the next 7 days passed in a blur. In just 7 short days, all the ultra-rare materials and equipment needed to synthesize the Luke element were already in place. After all, in this world, the vast majority of problems could be solved with money. And if a problem could be solved by throwing $1 billion at it, then it was not really a problem at all. Building an entire world-class laboratory from scratch would have taken way too long, so I simply spent a huge sum to acquire an existing one and remodel it. Some materials and equipment needed to be imported, so Arthur and Old Wayne smashed the money down and made it happen. If the new items were not enough, I bought second-hand ones. In fact, I was even willing to offer a price 1 or 2/10 higher than a brand new unit. Sell it or not, I told suppliers. If not, I will go find someone else. If no one wants to sell, then I will just add more money. As long as it was not outrageously absurd, I just bought it all. On this day, inside Future Energy's highly secured physics laboratory, 10 massive multi-million-dollar quantum colliders were arranged in a perfect circle. The steel doors were locked tight. Outside, Secretary James and the 2 elite female protection teams stood guard with loaded weapons. Inside that vast laboratory, there were only 2 people, Wendy and me. "Why don't you go wait outside too?" I asked her, putting on my safety goggles. "I need quite a bit of time and there's some serious danger involved."
No.
Wendy said, with a gentle smile, shaking her head.
Don't worry, I won't disturb you. At least when you're tired, I can massage your shoulders, rub your feet, and wipe away your sweat, can't I? As for danger, I'm not afraid at all. Wherever you are, I'll be there too.
I smiled adoringly and pulled her into my arms, kissing her deeply before saying, "Then you'd better be prepared. During the next period of time, maybe things will be a little cold between us, because what I'm about to do requires complete, absolute focus. Not even the slightest mistake is allowed."
I know,
she said softly.
I'll be fine. As long as I can just look at you, I'm already satisfied. Haven't you heard that saying? A serious man is the most attractive.
After that, I had the base kitchen prepare a heavy military meal for me. Half an hour later, the real work began. First, I had to physically connect the 10 massive quantum colliders together so they could operate in perfect sync. I started working immediately, dismantling the heavy steel parts that needed to be dismantled, and modifying, linking, and paralleling the necessary sections step by step. In the advanced knowledge I currently possessed, there was actually a much more advanced method for building quantum colliders. If I used that sci-fi method, one single collider would have been enough, but it was too troublesome and too slow to build from scratch. If I had to do everything myself, it would probably take at least twice as long. Compared to that, this current brute force method was much better. I just had to connect the 10 most advanced quantum colliders on Earth into a single, chained system. Once they were activated, they would still reach the massive energy threshold required for synthesizing the Luke element. And just like that, the work continued until day and night no longer seemed to exist. I worked like an absolute madman. During ordinary days, I used to laugh and joke around all the time, always relaxed and carefree. But now that I needed complete focus and had to put in real effort to change the world, I didn't hesitate even for a single second. I worked until day and night blurred together, worked until the sky and earth felt dark, worked until I no longer knew what day or night it even was. Meanwhile, back in the capital, the National Ministry of Education was in complete, utter chaos. The top leaders gathered together in a boardroom, looking at each other, staring at one another. For a long time, no one said a single word.
"What are we supposed to do?"
the person in charge finally yelled, rolling his eyes.
"Say something, all of you. I called you here to discuss a solution, not to have you sit here being useless. Luke's test score. How exactly are we supposed to grade it?"
The leaders all lowered their heads. Their eyes were fixed on the floor, saying nothing.
"You ask us, we ask who. This whole thing is giving us a massive headache."
Someone muttered.
"We've never had a case like this in national history before. Who knows what to do? Who can keep getting perfect scores over and over again?"
Luke did, and because of the Poseidon 1 submarine stunt, Luke had become someone almost the entire nation was watching on the news. Everyone online was guessing how many points I would get on the test this time. The level of attention was ridiculously high, especially with only 2 days left before the official score release. Normally, this would not have been a problem. What the score was, it was. But the massive problem now was that the score in their hands was currently a 0. The military held the exam papers.
Leader,
a clerk whispered.
Luke currently has 0 points.
The moment that was said, the room went dead silent.
Not because he got every question wrong.
The clerk hurriedly explained.
But because his answer sheet isn't even with us. The military confiscated it. How are we supposed to handle that? We can't possibly give him 0 points, can we? Based on Luke's arrogant personality, he'll definitely come after us online if we do.
A director groaned.
We're not afraid of Luke, sure. But if this turns into a public scene, it'll still damage the reputation of the education department.
Then, just give him full marks.
Someone else said.
No, that's even more ridiculous. How could we give full marks to someone whose answer sheet we didn't even get to legally see? That's nonsense.
Then, how about 298 points?
A moment later, someone proposed that. But after a short thought, the person in charge still felt it wasn't right. What if Luke insisted that he had full marks and demanded they bring out the answer sheet and let everyone score it together on TV? That wouldn't work either. This wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. Then what the hell were they supposed to do? But then, the person in charge actually came up with a brave solution.
All right, here's what we'll do,
he said. Send 2 people over to the Navy headquarters. Bring back the answer sheet. If you can't bring it back, force them to let you verify the answers on the spot. And if that still doesn't work, beg them and ask what score they think it should get. That actually did sound like a solution, but who was going to go face the scary military?
I'm not going!
Everyone said at once, all lowering their heads. Unfortunately, 2 unlucky officials were eventually selected, 1 man and 1 woman. Josephine and Leon became the unlucky pair and had to rush on an overnight flight to Shenzhen. Standing outside the massive, heavily armed gates of Navy headquarters, both of them were shivering a little.
Old Leon, you go talk to the guards,
Josephine said, pushing him forward.
Why should I?
Leon snapped back, sweating.
Ladies first.
Soon after, their nervous request reached the inner military meeting room. When General Walter heard it, he looked at his group of nuclear experts.
The education department wants to take Luke's answer sheet back,
Walter announced. The room instantly exploded in outrage.
No way. Impossible. Are they joking?
A scientist screamed.
Do those pencil pushers even know what level of secret this is? No, it's not even just a secret. This is a matter of national life and death. Absolutely no one can let them take it.
Then, can't we just tell them to give Luke 0 points?
Walter frowned. He thought for a second.
How about this? You guys are old genius experts, aren't you? Surely you can do a high school college entrance exam. I'll have the education department bring over the blank exam papers. You guys can grade them based on what Luke wrote, then send the official score back to them.
Fine.
The experts agreed. Then a bunch of top-tier national-level nuclear scientists sat down like students to do high school college entrance exam questions. And one by one, they even seemed weirdly excited about it.
Honestly, now that I'm looking at it, my hands are getting a bit itchy too.
Then maybe next year I should take the exam too.
Why would you take the exam? Just to get bullied by a kid like Luke?
After they finally finished grading, the result came out. Excluding the impossible extension questions, Luke got 298 points. But for the physics fusion extension question, everyone unanimously agreed it should get full marks. So, the final score was 299 points.
299 points?
Walter nodded slightly.
As for the biology extension question about cancer, I discussed it with the medical board, and they thought the answer was excellent. Rowan, you make the trip outside and tell the education department people this. Luke got full marks.
Full marks?
Rowan asked. Walter smiled.
Absolutely full marks.
Josephine and Leon stood outside the military base, receiving the final response. Their heads practically buzzed with shock. Wait, full marks? Full marks? Even on the flight all the way back to the capital, the two officials still could not fully process it.
Is that actually possible?
Leon whispered, rubbing his forehead.
Did I hear wrong?
If we both heard the exact same thing, then they really did say full marks.
Josephine replied, looking pale.
But those two extension questions.
When they finally returned to the Education Department headquarters and posted the military's official response on the projector screen, the top leaders all trembled violently. Their scalps went totally numb.
They really said that?
The person in charge gasped.
Are you sure you didn't mishear them?
We definitely didn't mishear.
Then that's even stranger.
A director shouted.
How could those two impossible extension questions possibly be graded as full marks? What exactly is going on here?
After another burst of chaotic arguing, the person in charge of the Education Department forced himself to calm down. He looked at Josephine.
They wouldn't give us the answer sheet back?
He asked.
Wouldn't give it?
Josephine gave a bitter smile.
They wouldn't even let us look at it. The guards said it was a matter of national life and death. We never even saw a corner of the answer sheet.
She continued.
They only gave the full mark score after asking for the electronic copy of the blank exam papers. Then, according to what we heard, their internal nuclear experts personally solved the questions themselves. They compared their science with Luke's answer sheet content before giving us the final result. Full marks.
The person in charge nearly cursed out loud.
This is really true, isn't it? You're making it very hard for me to explain this insane score to the public.
Another loud round of chaos erupted, and everyone looked at the leader again.
Leader, what do we do?
Yes, leader. The situation is getting a little out of control.
Please, leader, just say something. Whatever you decide, we'll do.
Damn it. The person in charge wanted to curse them all. These old foxes were all trying to outsmart each other. Did they think he was stupid? At a critical time like this, they were making him decide alone? If he really made that call, and the public revolted later, wouldn't he be the only one left to take the blame? Did they think he was an idiot? But since he had gathered everyone here, it was supposed to be a group discussion. What did they mean, whatever I say, you do? That was not how politics worked. They should still discuss it properly.
Still.
The leader sighed heavily, rubbing his temples.
In my opinion, the only safe solution is to follow what the military side said. Give him full marks.
Meanwhile, all across the country, millions of internet users were losing their minds waiting for the scores. Some people who had gambled heavily on the results even wanted to go up to the rooftop. In a certain private group chat of internet haters, everyone was feeling miserable. The test rankings are about to be announced, and I'm already standing on the 18th floor rooftop. One hater typed, "The view is pretty good, but the wind is a little strong and kind of cold." 18th floor? That's not even high, another replied. I'm on the 52nd floor. Are you guys serious? A third chimed in. I'm on the 3rd floor because the house in my hometown is just a self-built 3-story home. Damn it, I bet 30 million that Luke wouldn't get full marks. And this year they actually gave us garbage impossible questions. I want to jump. But there was also a small group of haters who were still laughing and gloating in the chat. Haha, that's what you get for being naive, one laughed. Do you really think full marks are that easy to get? Even though he had already pulled off 3 perfect scores in a row, and even created Poseidon 1 to become a billionaire, there was absolutely no way the relevant departments would let him keep getting full marks forever. That is why I told everyone from the very beginning that you cannot bet on full marks, but you all refused to listen. Exactly, another agreed. Your own brains were not clear, so whose fault is that? He definitely failed this year. As they kept chatting, netizens all over the internet were refreshing their browsers, waiting for the national scores to drop. At last, the time finally came. Besides the normal students nervously checking their own results, almost everyone else in the country looked at my public score at the very first moment. How is it? People typed. And then, holy, full marks? Are you serious? I'm cursed. It feels like I'm trapped inside a dream within a dream within a dream. I actually dreamed that Luke got full marks again. Cry! Babe! Slap me quickly in the face! I must be dreaming. After the initial shock and disbelief, the netizens slowly regained their sanity. Full marks? That's impossible, one top comment read. In any previous year of the college entrance exam, I might have believed a genius could score full marks. But this year, I seriously don't believe it. Do you people even know what curing cancer means? Do you even know what an infinite energy source is? It's not like you can just charge up a giant battery and call it an infinite source. Exactly, another user replied. At the very least, you would have to completely solve the pollution problem caused by nuclear fission. I still have to say it, there was definitely a black curtain behind this, a corrupt deal. No one could possibly get full marks on this sci-fi college entrance exam. No one! Very soon, the whole internet exploded with rage. At first, only a decent number of people were paying attention, and it was still within a normal range. But now, it hit like an 18-level typhoon and instantly swept across the entire internet. It even crushed offline real-world discussions as well. Aside from a few remote mountain areas and sparsely populated places with very few young people, almost every topic everywhere was now dominated by one thing only: Luke getting full marks in the impossible college entrance exam. It was honestly way too outrageous. Sure, the exam paper itself was shocking, but compared to the idea that a 21-year-old kid could actually get full marks on it, that shock was nothing. Full marks? Curing cancer? Controllable nuclear fusion? Do you believe that? Anyway, the public definitely did not. Almost everyone said they did not believe it. Even the few loyal netizens who had supported me earlier were now trembling behind their screens, too scared to speak up to defend me. The more highly educated someone was, the more absurd this sounded to them, and the less they were willing to believe it. Because according to all modern science, this simply should not have been possible at all. In an instant, all kinds of angry comments started flooding the internet. Black curtain, fake scoring, the education department is messing around, Luke has an enormous background and paid them off. People were even saying the government department had thrown all its shame away completely. Whatever crazy conspiracies people could imagine, they said it. The only thing nobody wanted to believe was that my answers were actually true. The suspicion of a black curtain grew stronger and stronger by the minute. Accusations of falsification grew louder and louder. And now the education department was being violently forced by the public to prove its innocence. While I was locked away in the laboratory, the outside world had completely flipped upside down. The public outcry over my perfect score reached a fever pitch. On every social media platform, forums, and news networks, netizens and experts alike were tearing into the education department. The accusations of a black curtain and systemic corruption were so loud they practically shook the heavens. People were demanding proof, demanding to see my exam papers, and demanding that I step forward to face the public. At the same time, the darkness of reality old Wayne had warned me about bared its fangs. Under the cover of the online chaos, foreign intelligence agencies and corporate spies launched desperate operations to pry into future energy. But they severely underestimated the security Elder Walter had put in place. The elite female security teams and the hidden perimeter defense forces swatted them away like flies. Dozens of infiltrators were quietly intercepted, neutralized, and disappeared before they could even get within a mile of my compound. Meanwhile, the person in charge of the education department was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. He called Secretary James almost every hour, practically crying and begging on the phone.
Please, just ask Boss Luke to say something. A single post, a short video, anything. If this keeps up, the entire department is going to be swallowed alive by the public's spit.
But I completely ignored the noise. Inside the highest grade physics laboratory, the outside world didn't exist. There was only me, Wendy, and the deafening hum of the 10 quantum colliders. For days, I didn't sleep. My eyes were bloodshot, and my hands moved with the mechanical precision of a god. I dismantled, paralleled, and relinked the most advanced equipment on Earth, pushing the machinery to its absolute breaking point. Wendy stayed right by my side the entire time, gently wiping the sweat from my forehead and forcing me to take a sip of water or a bite of food whenever I paused. Finally, on the dawn of the 8th day, the massive parallel system shuddered. A low-frequency hum vibrated through the floorboards, and inside the central containment chamber, a brilliant, ethereal blue light pulsed into existence. It wasn't a flash. It was a steady, rhythmic glow that felt almost alive. I let out a long, exhausted breath and smiled, my legs suddenly feeling like lead. "It's done," I whispered. Wendy rushed forward, holding me up as her eyes reflected the stunning blue light.
Is that?
"The Luke element," I said, a wave of triumph washing over me. Stable, perfect, and real. With the core material successfully synthesized, it was time to slap the world across the face. I didn't issue a statement to calm the public. I didn't release a meaningless PR video. Instead, I had Secretary James release a single, arrogant announcement from Future Energy. In 3 days, Future Energy will hold a live, worldwide broadcast to demonstrate the answers to this year's college entrance exam. The world is welcome to watch. But I didn't stop there. I used my resources to track down the IP addresses of the loudest, most vicious online haters. The ones who had sworn to jump off buildings or eat keyboards if I really had the tech. I sent them all VIP front row tickets, fully paid flights, and accommodations. I also sent physical, gold-embossed invitations to the foreign tech CEOs who had previously boycotted future technology, as well as the top global scientists who had publicly mocked my exam score. The internet went absolutely nuclear. He's actually doing a live broadcast? Did this madman really just send me a VIP ticket? Fine, I'll go. Let's see how he plans to fake this to my face. 3 days later, the global broadcast went live. The audience count shattered every recorded metric in human history within the first 5 minutes. Over 3 billion people were tuned in. I stood on the massive, futuristic stage we had constructed in Shen City. In the front row sat the sweating online haters, a dozen pale-faced foreign CEOs, and a panel of world-renowned scientists who looked like they were ready to expose a magician. Elder Walter and Old Wayne sat off to the side, grinning like a pair of foxes. I didn't waste time with a welcoming speech. I walked straight to the center of the stage where a sleek metallic cylinder the size of a standard washing machine sat. Everyone says my physics score was a fraud, I said calmly into the microphone, my voice echoing across the globe. They say controllable nuclear fusion is 50 years away, so allow me to introduce the heart of the next era. I held up a transparent vial containing the glowing blue Luke element, then slotted it into the cylinder's core. Right now, Shen City's power grid has been entirely disconnected from the national supply. The entire city is running on backup generators that will fail in exactly 10 seconds. The foreign scientist in the front row stood up in shock. Shutting down a Tier 1 city's power grid? Was he insane? 10-9, I counted down lazily. As I hit 0, the lights in the stadium flickered and died. Through the open stadium roof, the massive skyline of Shen City plunged into absolute darkness. Panic began to ripple through the crowd. I simply pressed a single red button on the cylinder. A deep, resonant hum vibrated through the air. The cylinder lit up with blinding blue energy, and in the blink of an eye, the stadium lights blasted back on. But it didn't stop there. The massive screens behind me showed live drone footage of Shen City. District by district, street by street, the entire metropolis lit up brighter than ever before. The energy meters displayed on the screen were maxing out, showing a terrifying, endless output of clean, perfectly stable energy coming from the single machine next to me. The stadium was dead silent. The world's top physicists in the front row collapsed back into their seats, their mouths gaping open, eyes wide with horror and awe. One of the foreign CEOs actually started weeping. It was real. Unlimited, limitless clean energy. The era of fossil fuels was dead, and a 21-year-old had killed it. That's for the physics question, I said, tapping the microphone. The sound made the haters in the front row violently flinch. Now for the biology question. How should cancer actually be treated? Before anyone could recover from the shock of the fusion reactor, a hospital bed was wheeled onto the stage. On it lay Richard Sterling, a globally famous billionaire tech mogul from the West who had been in the late stages of terminal pancreatic cancer. He looked like a skeleton covered in pale skin, days away from death. He'd also been one of the biggest skeptics of future technology. Mr. Sterling volunteered for this because, well, he had nothing left to lose, I said casually. Under the unblinking gaze of billions of people, I brought out a set of silver needles and a dark herbal concoction brewed using the god-tier traditional medicine skills I had unlocked from the exam. My hands moved like phantoms, inserting the needles into specific acupoints to forcefully stimulate his failing organs and block the pain receptors, followed by administering the medicine. For 10 minutes, the world watched with bated breath. Then, a miracle happened. The heart monitor, which had been weak and erratic, stabilized into a strong, steady rhythm. The terrifying, sickly yellow hue of Sterling's skin began to visibly fade. Suddenly, the dying billionaire gasped, his eyes shooting open. A team of top-tier independent medical experts rushed the stage with portable scanning equipment. They ran the scans live on the massive screen. The tumors. They were rapidly necrotizing and shrinking at a speed that defied every known law of biology. Richard shakily pulled off his oxygen mask. He looked at his own hands, then looked at me, tears streaming down his face.
I don't feel any pain. For the first time in 2 years, it doesn't hurt.
He slowly swung his legs over the edge of the bed and, to the absolute horror of his personal doctors, stood up. He walked 2 steps, then fell to his knees in front of me, sobbing in gratitude. I looked down at him, then looked out at the front row. The haters who had screamed about black curtains and fraud were frozen like statues. Some of them were trembling so hard their teeth were chattering. I looked directly into the main broadcasting camera, a calm, arrogant smile on my face. 750 points? I said softly, but the words hit like a sledgehammer. Next year, I hope the exam committee tries a little harder. This is getting boring. I dropped the microphone. It hit the floor with a thud that echoed around a completely speechless world. The thud of that dropped microphone didn't just echo across the stadium, it rang the death knell for the old world order. In the days following the global broadcast, the international geopolitical landscape collapsed and rebuilt itself around a single, undeniable truth. The Republic was now the undisputed master of the globe. The global stock markets experienced a tectonic shift. Fossil fuel empires evaporated overnight, and foreign tech monopolies, companies that had spent decades strangling the Republic with blockades and embargoes, saw their valuations plunge to zero. When your opponent has unlocked the cheat code for infinite energy and perfect biological healing, your centuries of accumulated research are suddenly worth less than scrap paper. The foreign superpowers panicked. Britain, the same nation that had arrogantly deployed submarines to intercept Poseidon I, was the first to break. Their highest-ranking diplomats flooded into the Republic, practically crawling on their knees. They didn't come to negotiate, they came to surrender. In exchange for the faintest hope of purchasing a downgraded commercial variant of the future energy fusion reactor, they unconditionally handed over the patents to all their military, aviation, and semiconductor technologies. Other hostile nations quickly followed suit, tripping over themselves to lift their embargoes and beg for a seat at the table. I didn't even have to attend the meetings. Elder Walter handled them all with a smile so sharp it could cut glass. The Republic had instantly leapfrogged the rest of humanity by at least 500 years. We were no longer playing the same game. Because while the rest of the world was crying over the death of oil, the Republic's navy was busy building a god. Remember the joke Elder Walter's experts made in the conference room? The one where they asked, if we have infinite energy, why even bother putting the aircraft carrier in the water? They actually did it. 6 months after the broadcast, I stood on a classified military launch pad alongside Elder Walter, Arthur, Old Wayne, and my parents. The ground beneath us trembled as the country's first aerospace mothership, powered by an array of 8 interconnected Luke element fusion cores, prepared for its maiden voyage. It was a colossal, anti-gravity behemoth of dark steel and glowing blue thrusters, stretching over 3 miles long. It looked like a city ripped straight from a sci-fi blockbuster, entirely constructed from the indestructible materials I had pulled from my physics exam.
I still can't believe those madmen in the design bureau actually pulled this off.
Elder Walter muttered, his eyes wet with tears of absolute pride.
No more begging for budget, no more hiding our strength. Today, we conquer the sky.
As the massive mothership silently and effortlessly defied gravity, ascending into the clouds, the shadow it cast over the Earth was the ultimate deterrent. Any foreign satellite tracking its ascent immediately transmitted data that probably made foreign generals faint in their command centers. But I had one more mission to complete today, and it had nothing to do with global supremacy. Ready for a tour? I asked, turning to Wendy. She looked at the ascending Leviathan, her eyes wide with wonder, and nodded. We took a specialized transport shuttle and docked with the mothership just as it breached the stratosphere. Then I led her out onto the primary observation deck, a massive expanse of reinforced transparent alloy that offered a completely unobstructed view of the cosmos above and the Earth below. The curvature of the blue marble glowed brilliantly against the endless void of space. The hum of the fusion engines was barely a whisper beneath our feet. What Wendy didn't know was that this entire moment was being broadcasted live to the mothership's command center, and by extension, to a select global audience. Down in the command center, Arthur was strutting around like a peacock, pointing at the massive monitors.
Look at that! That's my daughter up there, and that's my good son-in-law. Old Wayne, are you watching? This is what peak human excellence looks like, and he calls me Dad.
Old Wayne rolled his eyes so hard he nearly sprained them, but even he was grinning ear to ear as he clapped. Up on the deck, surrounded by the quiet majesty of space, I turned to Wendy. The stars reflected in her beautiful eyes, but to me, she outshone every single one of them. She had been by my side before the perfect scores, before the billions, before the fusion reactors, and before I had the power to change the world. She had believed in me when I was just a confident high schooler shooting for the stars. Now, I had literally brought her to them. I stepped back, took a deep breath, and slowly dropped to one knee. Wendy gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as her eyes instantly filled with tears. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a sleek velvet box, opening it to reveal a ring. The band was forged from the same indestructible metal that built the mothership we stood on, and at its center sat a flawlessly cut diamond, illuminated by a microscopic, totally harmless, glowing blue shard of the Luke element. "Wendy," I said softly, my voice carrying no arrogance, only absolute devotion. "I can solve any exam the world throws at me. I can unlock the secrets of the universe, cure diseases, and build suns in a glass jar. But none of this, not the wealth, not the technology, not even this ship, means a damn thing if you aren't standing next to me to share it." I looked up at her, smiling. "We've conquered the world. Now, I want to conquer the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" A tear slipped down her cheek, floating slightly in the low-gravity environment of the deck before she threw her arms around my neck, nearly knocking us both to the floor.
Yes.
She cried, laughing and sobbing all at once.
Yes, you idiot. 1,000,000 times, yes.
As I slipped the glowing ring onto her finger, I could faintly hear the erupting cheers from the command center through my earpiece, led by the deafening, triumphant roar of my smug father-in-law. I held Wendy tight against my chest, looking down at the world spinning quietly below us. The haters were silenced, the world was on its knees, humanity was stepping into a limitless future, and I had the love of my life in my arms. I smiled, pulling her in for a kiss. Let the exam committee come up with whatever they wanted next year. I was ready. Time didn't just pass over the next few years. It warped, dragging the rest of humanity kicking and screaming into the future. The National College Entrance Exam, once the most stressful 2 days in a student's life, underwent a bizarre transformation. It was no longer just an academic assessment, it became a global festival, unofficially dubbed by the internet as the annual Tech Harvest. Every June, the entire world held its breath. Foreign presidents, global CEOs, and top scientists would sit in front of their screens like eager children on Christmas morning, waiting to see what I would pull out of my brain next. The exam committee, led by poor William, had completely given up on trying to stump me. In fact, their entire job description had shifted. They were no longer setting a test. They were simply the middlemen delivering the military's wish list to me. The year after the mothership launched, the military planted a physics question. How can localized atmospheric pressure and temperature be manipulated to neutralize extreme weather phenomena? 3 hours in the exam hall gave me the blueprint for the global weather control grid. Within 8 months, natural disasters were a thing of the past. Hurricanes were casually dispersed with a press of a button, and the Sahara Desert was terraformed into a lush, blooming oasis. The year after that, the chemistry question asked, is it possible to rearrange subatomic particles to synthesize complex matter from base carbon? Boom, matter synthesis. We built molecular replicators that could turn literal dirt into 5-star meals, rare earth metals, or perfectly constructed building materials. Overnight, global hunger and resource scarcity were completely eradicated. The year following that, the biology paper asked about perfect genetic coding. I handed in an answer sheet that contained the sequence to halt human cellular degradation. Disease became a historical footnote, and the human lifespan was effectively uncapped. With every passing summer, Earth evolved. Driven by the limitless power of the Luke element fusion reactors and the technologies I effortlessly extracted from the exams, humanity officially crossed the threshold. We became a Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale, capable of harnessing and controlling the entire energy output of our planet. Global conflicts ceased to exist because there was nothing left to fight over. When energy is infinite, food is synthesizable, and disease is cured, the old wars of the past look like monkeys fighting over a single banana in a jungle full of fruit. The Republic stood at the absolute apex of this utopian world, and I stood at the apex of the Republic. To call me a billionaire or even a trillionaire would be the greatest insult to my status. My wealth had long surpassed the GDP of the entire planet. Money was a completely obsolete concept to me. I owned the foundational patents to every single aspect of modern human life, from the air people breathed in terraformed cities to the energy that powered their homes and the medicine that kept them young. I wasn't just a businessman anymore. The history books had already crowned me the architect and founder of Earth 2.0. Even Arthur, my father-in-law, had to take a step back. Though he strutted around the globe as the proudest man alive, introducing himself to foreign heads of state simply as Luke's dad, he knew that the empire we had built was something beyond human comprehension. Meanwhile, deep within the heavily fortified underground bunker that now served as the headquarters for the National College Entrance Exam Committee, the atmosphere was a mix of absolute terror and alcohol-fueled despair. The committee was no longer an educational body. The Ministry of Education had officially restructured them into the Strategic Technological Request and Prompt Bureau. Their sole purpose in life was to serve as my personal R&D request board. Team leader William sat at the head of the conference table, his tie undone, clutching a half-empty bottle of high-proof baijiu. His hair, which had been thick and black a few years ago, was now a thin, frantic mess of gray wisps that he was actively trying to pull out of his scalp.
I used to test children on basic calculus.
William sobbed, taking a massive gulp straight from the bottle.
I used to grade essays about spring outings and filial piety. Now, look at this.
He aggressively slammed a top-secret military dossier onto the table. Charles, the head grader, whimpered from the corner, his head buried in his hands.
Elder Walter wants a 1-point bonus question about faster-than-light travel,
he muttered, sounding completely broken.
How do we even format that? Assume a high school student wants to fold the fabric of space-time using a localized warp bubble. Please calculate the negative mass requirements. Worth 1 point. Are they out of their minds?
If we get the phrasing wrong, he might only invent a sublight engine,
wailed Jane, the literary expert who was currently stress-eating a massive box of chocolates.
Or worse, what if he accidentally misunderstands the prompt and builds a black hole that swallows the solar system? The pressure is too much. I want to retire.
Nobody retires.
William roared, slamming his fist on the table, tears streaming down his face.
If we don't deliver a perfectly phrased FTL question by tomorrow morning, the Navy will have us all scrub the aerospace mothership's engines with our toothbrushes. Drink your liquor, Charles. We have to figure out how to squeeze the physics of a wormhole into a multiple-choice format.
While the world's most stressed educators wept over their keyboards, the sun rose on the morning of the exam. The scene outside the First National Testing Center was unlike anything in human history. There were no nervous parents holding umbrellas and no anxious students flipping through flashcards. In fact, there were no other students at all. The entire testing center was reserved exclusively for me. Thousands of reporters from every corner of Earth 2.0 were camped outside, surrounded by floating camera drones and holographic broadcasting arrays. As my anti-gravity transport glided to the entrance and the doors hissed open, a hush fell over the crowd. They didn't push or shove. The respect and awe they held for me bordered on religious reverence. Reporter Betty, now the chief anchor of the Global News Network, stepped forward respectfully, bowing her head slightly.
Emperor Luke,
she asked, her sweet voice carrying a tone of absolute worship.
the world is watching. We aren't asking if you'll achieve full marks today. We know the answer. We only wish to ask, what era of history are you unlocking for us this time?
I smiled, adjusting the cuffs of my suit. Well, Betty, Earth is perfect, but I was looking at Mars through my telescope last night. It looks a bit dry, don't you think? It's time we build a second utopia. Oh, and our aerospace motherships have been hovering around the solar system for a while now. I think it's time we finally go knock on the doors of our neighbors. The reporters gasped, their eyes lighting up with starry-eyed frenzy. Martian terraforming and first contact with alien civilizations. The three-body aliens were about to get a very rude awakening. The crowd erupted into deafening cheers, chanting my name as if I were a deity descending to the mortal realm. I turned away from the cameras and walked up the pristine steps toward the entrance of the exam hall. But just before I crossed the threshold, I stopped and looked up at the endless, hyper-clear blue sky. I thought back to that ordinary afternoon, walking home from high school as a completely average teenager. I thought about the mysterious, ridiculous God in the alleyway, and the absurd question that had started it all. Would you choose 750 points in the college entrance exam or 75 million in cash? I let out a soft, genuine laugh, shaking my head. 1 second of hesitation back then would have been an insult to 75 million. It was a sum that could have given me a lifetime of idle luxury, fancy cars, and early retirement. But by rejecting the cash and choosing the 750 points, I hadn't just secured a future, I had claimed dominion over human destiny. I had become the most powerful, respected, and feared man in human history. Keep the change, I whispered to the sky, silently thanking the God who had offered me that fateful choice. Then, with the weight of humanity's limitless future resting effortlessly on my shoulders, I stepped into the exam hall to change the universe.